Game day's here, I can hear the crowd. Turn on the lights, fans are cranked up and loud. Red or blue, we wear it proud. Yeah, we love our teams in this border town. Chiefs and Royals, Boo Mizzou, Rock Chalk, Jayhawk, KU. Hear that drum pounding in your feet. Yeah, you're marching to the beat of KC.
What is going on, YouTube? What is going on, Kansas City? And what is going on, everybody? And welcome to the beat of KC. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Lucas Murphy, and the winter meetings have kicked off, and we're starting to see more and yet again more news regarding the Kansas City Royals. And so we're going to really jump in and talk about really two people that are very involved in Major League Baseball, bringing up the Kansas City Royals team. So first off, the Royals outfield search. Per Ken Rosenthal, The Athletic, the Kansas City Royals are mulling a long list of potential upgrades for their outfield. They are not pursuing the most expensive options, as we know. The Kansas City Royals are not going to be pursuing guys like Kyle Tucker. They're not going to be pursuing guys like Cody Bellinger, although Cody Bellinger would fit phenomenal with the Kansas City Royals because I do believe he is a left-handed stick and he provides a lot of pop. Although the Kansas City Royals are more interested in right-handers, it does not sound like they are dead set on a specific side of the box for a hitter, and that comes from head coach Matt Quatrero, as he will state right here.
Today that you guys have interest in free agent outfielder Harrison Bader. Is that the right phylum that we should be looking at, right-handed hitting outfielders who can play all three outfield spots?
Well, that's a really nice thing to have. I'll be honest, we talk about it a lot, like right-handed, left-handed. It's who can give us the professional at bat. So I don't think it has to be one or the other. It's who wants to be there, who can provide the most upside for us within the lineup, lengthen it out, as JB said. So it's certainly a great name, but yeah, I mean, I know that he's a top-notch free agent this offseason.
But they also might be priced out of the top players of the next tier of free agents. So Harrison Bader, who said he's expecting a 3-year deal, just like anything. And I even talked about it with Jack in my interview. You're going to get teams, specific players, who are asking to get the max they possibly can. I mean, Jack used probably the perfect analogy, is that when you're an associate or an employee of a company and it's time for your annual review or your annual raise, you're going to go in asking for the most. You're going to go in asking for the max. Obviously, there's negotiations, there's things that happen, and then a realization it comes out. Well, most of the time, you're not going to get the max. A lot of the time, you're going to be knocked down a tier or whatever. In this case, Harrison Bader is expecting a 3-year deal. The Kansas City Royals may say, hey, you know what, we'll meet you and match you on that 3-year deal, but here's what we can pay. I think, obviously, he has a mindset. He played for the Minnesota Twins last year, who really kind of struggled and derailed toward the ends of the year, and he was eventually traded to the Philadelphia Phillies, where he tasted success. He's had success in the years past with multiple teams. So Harrison Bader obviously kind of knows what he wants and really has his idea of where he wants to put the market. Though the Royals' preference, and this is according to people who were briefed on their discussions at the winter meetings, they're obviously wanting to add a free agent, but they're also wanting to acquire an outfielder through the trade. My opinion, maybe you're not necessarily your most impactful piece is going to come from the free agent market, like we just stated. And as Ken Rosenthal stated, they're not going to be signing guys like Kyle Tucker, Cody Bellinger. That's just not going to happen because it's going to be out of their range of price. But what they're going to be able to do in the free agent market is go ahead and sign a few guys, which we'll talk about. But that's more or less they're going to get a guy that can fill a role, that can really kind of step up when need to, or maybe be an all-around player. Like if they were to sign, say a Harrison Bader, he could start and play center field every day, which would then allow you to kind of really rearrange how your outfield looks. Kyle Isbell probably would become your 4th outfielder. But they're still really focused on getting a massive trade done, which really gets a very impactful top-tier bat to add to your outfield, because we know where this team was, and we'll talk about where they were in WRC Plus and really where they fell in home runs. The Royals' preference, according to the people that were briefed, is they're going to add 2 outfielders, one through free agency and the other through trade. They're willing to and dealing they're willing to deal, from their starting pitching. And we have a plethora of very talented starting pitching. We've heard the range all the way from Cole Reagans to Chris Bubich down to Noah Cameron. I mean, there's been some type of potential trade tied to almost every one of those guys, except for obviously Seth Lugo and Michael Wacha. Outside of that, most of those guys have had their names linked to some form of trade. So, these negotiations are going on because they're being put into, these types of formats where you're hearing the preference, the according to the people briefed. Like, these discussions are going on, and they're even going to be more ramped up because they're at the winter meetings. They're able to really talk with other GMs and things like that. So it's going to be interesting to see if some things start to really come together. There are some other free agents that have been linked to this team. A reunion with obviously Mike Yastrzemski, which we'll talk about, is one avenue the Royals are exploring, which I truly believe adding Mike back to this lineup, back to this team, would be a huge positive. He came over and really contributed in a very solid way. He played really good defense. He filled a spot that was needed in a leadoff spot. He hit some decent home runs. I mean, he just filled a role. And so it'd be nice to kind of bring his experience and level of play back. We don't expect Mike Yastrzemski to be an everyday starter, but he would fill a good role when you need him to play. Obviously, there's other guys like Adolis Garcia, Max Kepler, Mike Tauchman. I mean, there's Lane Thomas, there's J.J. Bleday, who both those guys are really looking for bounce-back years. They're bounce-back candidates. And the thing with those guys is they're not going to cost an arm and a leg to bring those in. I was always a big-time Lane Thomas fan when he was with the Washington Nationals. I think Lane Thomas could potentially play really good defense and really kind of crack out of that shell of what we saw in the past when he was with the Nationals. He had a phenomenal year, just really hasn't been able to replicate that. And the Royals, though, are willing to take on only so much risk as they break in Jack Caglione in right field. We saw Carter Jensen come up, and obviously he's expected to play catcher a little bit this year. Salvador Perez is continuing to appear as a designated hitter and first base and will catch some. There are other risks that can be taken, and so that's the concern is if you add a guy like Thomas and Bleday, clearly they're risks because you don't really know how they're going to play. I mean, you could say that for anybody, but right now their track record just shows and indicates that they just cannot contribute fully the way they should to be a full-time starter. And so I think it's the same really can be said for an Adolis Garcia, who has really been a below-average hitter for the past 2 seasons. Does he hit the long ball? Of course, that's what he's good at. But outside of that, you have to be able to contribute not only at the plate, but play some decent defense. Now, I know Adolis Garcia has an absolute hose. He has a cannon attached to his arm, but you're a team that had a 73 WRC plus, which was worse than Major League Baseball. They only had 37 home runs, which was second fewest in the league. And really a team that just kind of could not figure out the outfield to really kind of boost this offense at times. You don't want to go out there and take these types of risk with players like Thomas, Bleday, even an Adolis Garcia. And so I really think those are some interesting takes. Max Kepler could be another one who really hits the long ball, but his average just is not there. So, and it's not all about average. There's other categories you want to look at, but those are some, kind of the key things you're wanting to look for. And I think with the Royals, they look at it a little bit different. They're focusing on, can we get guys that can play the outfield as well? We're not just solely focused on adding guys that can hit, because they have plenty of those. They have guys that can play. Like a perfect example is trying to figure out how can we get our key guys into the rotation. So they got to stick Jack Caglione in right field in order to play Vinny Pasquantino at first, in order to get Salvador Perez at DH, and then in order to get Carter Jensen to play catcher, or vice versa. You got Salvador Perez catching, which then may put Vinny playing, first base or DH, which then could put Jack Caglione at first base. So they have some manipulation, but then they have to be able to fill those guys. So it'd be interesting to kind of see how this really develops. And that's where I think a Yastrzemski would be perfect. But really what we're going to jump into is kind of some 3 guys that were really highlighted, I think, really from John Heyman. John Heyman of the New York Post stated that Harrison Bader, as well as Austin Hayes and former Royal Mike Yastrzemski are guys that we're really kind of looking at, and I'm sure that those are just being discussed, obviously, at the winter meeting. So Austin Hayes batted, and Austin Hayes is somebody I've always kind of been intrigued in. We've seen him have success with the Baltimore Orioles. Since that time, he's kind of bounced around to some other places. He's been with the Cincinnati Reds. He's dealt with some injury, but this last year he batted .266 with 15 home runs in 103 games. He's a right-handed hitter who obviously they'll tell you, hey, we're not solely set on, but like we do need right-handed hitters. He performed especially well against left-handed pitching, something you're not going to see all the time, but if he's excelling at that, then you know he can clutch up in those situations. He's a potentially useful in a platoon situation, which I think is great to understand, especially since that's probably something they're more or less looking for in an outfielder from free agency. He recently played on a modest one-year deal and would likely remain on a budget-friendly option, which we stated, which could fit the Royals' payroll strategy, especially if they're trying to really make a big splash in the trade market and maybe have to take on somebody who already is established and already has a decent contract. Because we've seen guys like Ketel Marte being linked to the Royals, although I think that ship kind of sailed a little bit. Obviously bringing in a Brendan Donovan, who would be my ultimate trade prize. So there's things that you would have to look at. So trying to stay on a good budget-friendly free agent signing for an outfielder, these guys match up. So what he would offer KC, affordable right-handed bat, potential platoon strength, defensive flexibility. He's a lower risk, cost bet that addresses offensive voids without committing long-term. It's that magical time of the year again. The minute the boxes come out of storage and the first string of lights flickers on, everything just feels brighter. The smell of pine fills the house. The Christmas tree goes up, and suddenly, you're transforming your home into a full-blown holiday wonderland. Maybe you're climbing the ladder to hang lights on the roof, setting up those larger-than-life yard decorations, or turning the living room into the coziest place on earth. But sometimes, the Christmas spirit outgrows the space you're in. Whether you're dreaming of a bigger living room, for the perfect tree, a yard worthy of your holidays display, or simply a home that better fits your seasonal traditions, now might be the ideal time to find your dream home. Lisa Miller at Lynch Real Estate. With over 13 years of experience and licenses in both Kansas and Missouri, Lisa isn't just selling houses, she's helping you find a place to call home. Whether you're a first-time homebuyer, looking to upsize, or selling your current home, Lisa makes the process smooth and stress-free. As a local expert, passionate about building lasting relationships, she ensures her clients feel confident and satisfied every step of the way. Don't wait, your perfect home is just a call away. Contact Lisa today at 913-579-3246 or 913-369-3000 or visit lisamillersaleskc.com. Let Lisa Miller at Lynch Real Estate help you start your next chapter. So if you're ready to make a move that matches your holiday joy, Lisa Miller is here to help you find that place where your Christmas magic can truly come to life. Now, obviously, the next one's Harrison Bader, who I also believe would be a great addition. If they were to add a Harrison Bader and go get Brendan Donovan, I would absolutely be ecstatic at where this team is going into spring training. Like, I would hope we could fast forward to spring training if they were to make those two moves. Now, would I be upset if they got Austin Hayes and maybe a Brendan Donovan, or Austin Hayes and, well, somebody else? No, but I want to just see some type of big trade and a free agent signing. So Harrison Bader's coming off his best offensive season of his career. In 2025, he hit .277. His slash line 277, 347, and 449. He had 17 home runs, 24 doubles, 501 plate appearances between those two clubs we mentioned earlier, the Twins and the Phillies. He also remains as a well-regarded defender, and I think really that's something the Royals, again, are just so set on getting, is somebody who can play defense, capable of covering center field or other outfield spots, and giving Kansas City elite defensive versatility, which we know that that's really what they want, especially when they play half their games in what would be considered a graveyard in Kauffman Stadium. It's just such a massive outfield. On the flip side, critics note his high strikeout rate, highest since 2020, and point out that much of his offensive surge may have been really due to, and it's indicated by high BABIP, and that's obviously what that is referencing is luck. And so there's a lot of people out there that say he's due to regress a little bit. The ultimate thing you always see is that you're going to play your ultimate best in a contract year. And so he's obviously trying to make money. He's obviously trying to sign a 3-year deal, which we talked about. Could we see some regression with some satisfaction of being locked up? And so that's something you have to consider as well. He does have high upside, especially playing a premier position in center field. He would have a rare blend of defense and speed. Obviously, he did have a recent offensive resurgence, so you would have to question whether that can maintain or not. But yeah, I think obviously Kansas City would be a great fit for Harrison Bader. He would be comfortable playing in a division that he was familiar with for a majority of the season last year. And so I think it'd be interesting to see Harrison Bader sign with the Kansas City Royals and maybe take over that center field spot. We would just have to see. Now, obviously, the final one we've talked about multiple times. He's been with Kansas City, and that's Mike Yastrzemski. Obviously, he was a part of this team, came over in the trade around the trade deadline of last year in 2025. He posted solid numbers and limited playing time, including a 127 WRC plus, added 9 homers in roughly 50 games, brought you the versatility of playing the outfield in all 3 spots, but also leading off for you. You know, he's shown discipline at the plate, but the thing is he's on the downside. At 36, he will be turning 36 soon. He's not young, and his splits have been weaker versus left-handed pitching, which could limit his value in certain matchups. I think what he offers KC is a veteran, low-risk, versatile outfielder who can plug multiple holes. He's comfortable here in Kansas City, and what I mean by comfortable, he understands what this team's about because he's been in the locker room. He knows how these guys are going to function. He knows what the expectations are. He knows the coaching staff. Although a few guys have switched, their hitting coaches have changed a little bit, he still knows kind of everything about it. So that's really kind of where I think Yaz kind of fits into this Kansas City approach. Now, I think that's really going to be the end of the video. If I had to give you all a kind of and I kind of already gave it to you, would be my perfect picks, but if the Royals want a modest, lower-cost fix that improves right-handed power and roster depth, Austin Hayes is the safe option. If they want to aim and be bold, improve center field defensively, and try to harness a recent breakout, that'd be Harrison Bader. If they prefer a veteran presence, flexibility, and stability without large financial commitment, then obviously Yaz is going to be the appealing Eddie type to round out the outfield mix when it comes to the free agent aspect. So we do expect, because the rumors are out there, that they will be signing a free agent and making a trade. I'm excited. I'm obviously going to continue to provide you all videos on the Kansas City Royals and the moves that they make and what's going on. I appreciate all the love and support. It's been absolutely phenomenal. I can't thank you all enough. It means so much to me. Make sure you guys smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. Comment down below. Let me know who you guys are interested in. And I end every video the exact same way. Have a good day.